All right, greetings, Freedom Phil. Kind of talk about some of my memories from the past. As far as when I lived in the woods and other eras of my life. And I go back to like the woods era. I used to hike all over the place occasionally. I had a Siberian Husky, and me and Thunder would kind of go wherever. And the 5,000 block was just adjacent. When I say 5,000 block, that's just what they called it. It was a collection of DNR roads that was right behind where I lived. Like they had the kind of swamp area, which was tree swamp, alder bottom. And then, you had three roads. So one of them was out where I found that cedar that day. And that road, there was actually a time that some buddies of mine made like a little, like lashed together a big ass hut to hang out in. And someone burned it down. Might have been the DNR, might have been somebody we know. There's always speculation about that. Never really got a solid answer. But it was kind of a cool place because what's funny about it is that some of it was they'd have tank traps at the end of these small roads, and they still had access. Like they still had the pipes there back then, and some of them you could actually see fish in there, like where the culverts went through. The third road was a good example of that. You could definitely see fish there, like I'd say finger-sized minnows sometimes. But funny thing is about it when they tore out the culverts is that people have told me that now that the area drains a whole lot better, the places that used to be swamp are now more forested, which is like, okay, that's kind of cool. Changes my memories and all that. But, it's funny when you go walking down some of the roads that were decommissioned, like, 5 years, it's about the same. It's just more grass. You get to 10 years, though, and that's when the alders start really taking over the middle of the road. And after about 15 to 20, it's an entirely different place, especially if you haven't been there in a long time. To tell you the truth, part of the reason I'm reluctant to usually go to some of these places, parking can be a question. Like, I guess I could park over in Joyce, right there at the General, like, because there's people around there, therefore less people are likely to try some shit. Yeah, there are meth heads out where I grew up. Just, it's kind of, they're everywhere, but, poverty causes problems. And so go back to these areas and take, like, say, this bicycle to get back to the area and then just kind of hike around and stuff. Like, for instance, when I think back on the 5,000 block, there was a three roads, the third road led to the timber. And then the place my buddies built that little hut just because, when people build stuff because they're bored, that's what happened. They were like, we were out there just dinking around. They're like, hey, let's lash something. And so basically, the middle road was the road that's always there. The first road was kind of a road that's kind of weird. It kind of meandered along. There was an old trailer out there, and the joke of that was, oh, it's someone's meth lab. It could have been someone's meth lab for all we know. It could have been someone who was just broke, was living out there. You'll see stuff like you'll have someone who's either, in and out of jail or broke, homeless, and then they have a trailer out somewhere. They get arrested for something stupid, and then the trailer gets left there. And sooner or later, if nobody shows up, you're going to have some teenage kids or somebody will, figure out a way into the place. And that's one of the other problems. You leave something somewhere, and some of these kids end up breaking into it and trashing it or throwing a party or something. Not even intention to steal it. Just leave the doors open, windows broken, take a shit in the toilet and leave it there. Teenagers are fucking bastards. I'm just saying, But, yeah, it's kind of funny when you think of some of the shit I've seen over the years. And it's just like, why? Why fuck with someone else's shit? But, if there's no consequences and it's funny, a lot of people will just do shit. Let's just be honest about that. And that's what I find funny about it. It's almost like I'm not a big thing about the government, but I do realize there needs to be a minimal amount of authority figure to keep people from being fucking just crazy monkeys. So, yeah, the trailer was out there. It's kind of, the walk wasn't that far in that one. That one only kind of zigzagged a little bit and then it ended. And they blocked off that one when they blocked off the third road. The middle road, down to three of them, they didn't block off because there's some people who own land way the hell down there. I've actually seen the gate years ago, of where their land is. And I speculated that their land there either connects over to the Salt Creek area, or, that's actually their entrance and they have legal title to it, because, it's likely those people originally might have been the people that built the first stuff out there. And you got to understand, the cuts were cut there somewhere back in the late 80s, 90s. So it was probably second growth at that point of some sort, And so basically, yeah, it's a good chance someone settled that was their home out there, So that road still being there, I don't know if the spur road still exists, because there's actually a trail, I've seen it. I've never really walked the whole thing. That goes, if you follow the middle road, like you could start off in Joyce, walk to where the old rail yard, or not rail yard, but the railroad was, drop down near, I think it's a creek or up a creek, one of the two, and then follow that little road. It's kind of overgrown, which is behind all the houses, goes behind the property I used to live on. And then you follow past the third road, which is blocked off. And then you get to the middle road. And basically you could walk all the way out there. And then there's that spur that goes to the right, ways down there. And this kind of zigzags along. And there's this cool little creek as you kind of zigs down that way. And I always thought it was just kind of a cool area because there's still some trees. It's kind of picturesque and stuff like that. And then if you go up the hill and keep on following these old roads, there's some of them that kind of push towards Salt Creek. And if you go far enough, you find the trail that leads down there. And legend has it that trail, there's a connection on the other side of Salt Creek that you can go up the Striped Peak area. And so you can follow this trail all the way to Striped Peak, which leads to the Striped Peak roads, which leads to the bunkers. I mean, you got to understand, way back in the day, all these roads used to connect some way, somehow. I mean, it wasn't uncommon to just have roads everywhere because, logging and whatnot, expansion. We used to be an expansion country. And then we slowly started becoming more, with technology getting better and better, as far as moving logs and doing other stuff and just not wanting people out in the woods because, God forbid you be free. They started getting where they started minimizing, not only for the factor of getting people off the land, but, making it to where there's just less maintenance, So it's crazy when I think about all the areas that you could hike out there. You could start out here and kind of meander your way through this area and that area. And, it's funny, I look back at my dog. He used to be like, he'd get off the chain and he would be running and running. He was a husky, big surprise, likes running. But I used to try to catch him, and he's like, you can't catch me type of mentality. Eventually I'm like, fuck it. I just sit down. And then he comes up to me and I'm like, what, is the game over? And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I'm trying to catch you for ages. There's one time he broke off the chain. And it's because it wasn't because the chain was bad. It was the fucking goddamn loops, the little thing you hook up to his collar. Those things, there's a round piece on them. They're just built like shit. I ended up getting a logging piece to stop this from happening, ironically. And it's like, isn't that a bit big? It's the only thing you can't break. Because they only last for so many months, maybe like 6 months, and then boom, breaks off. And then he's like, yeah, I want to go running. And then this one time, I slipped in some fucking cow shit trying to catch him. And he was running, and then he got, kind of like playful around a horse, and horse was having none of this. And the horse just fucking gives him a solid kick to the side. And he looks at me like, and at the horse like it's some demon animal, like, what the fuck is this? And just goes running home. And he was fine. But he was like, just running home. Like, I just started fucking laughing. Like, you fucking deserve that. As there's fucking cow shit down the side of my fucking, my side of my sweatpants. I'm like, motherfucker. But yeah, I mean, if I was going to let him run, I'd go out to the 5,000 block. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere where there's no animals, no problems. I mean, when I was a little kid, we had a Siberian Husky who got shot by a farmer. And I kind of get that. If you have a dairy, you can't have your cows getting scared, and all that shit. And there's that whole, it's a wolf, it's a coyote, it's dirt, and it's like, well, and then my brother found our dogs way back in St. Anthony dead in a canal. So it was what it was. And so, that's part of actually that husky we had way back then was part of the reason I always liked huskies. So, I mean, it was like little kid memory, young adult memory. I say young adult because even if you're 18, I still say young adult. I mean, I don't really think most people have their head together till they're in their mid-20s, maybe even 30s. And it has a lot to do with just the way our culture is. But yeah, used to love going hiking out there way back in the day. There's lots of cool areas to go hiking around there. Lots of little magical places. And I think in the back of my head, some of the places with water and trees, that music from Princess Mononoke where he's walking through the forest and like this is enchanting or magical or something like that. You got the little bobblehead guys, what are they, Kadokus or whatever they're called. I can't remember. Yeah, where they bobble their head and sound like a little rattle. It kind of feels that way in some parts of the Northwest. Like, and I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it rains there all the time." Yeah, but it's really pretty, and there's mushrooms and food and seaweed and clams and oysters. It's like, once you get used to the way you dress and just the idea that you just have a wood stove, and yeah, we do get a summer, ironically, out there. We do. Sometimes June's pretty nice, but sometimes it's questionable. Like I'd say July through September, and sometimes May will be awesome. Like if you're out in the smelting grounds, because it's a weird rain shadow. Like things will bunch up closer to PA, Port Angeles, than they will out there in the green abyss. I don't know what to call it. It's the Outlands. It's the middle of nowhere on the 112. And it'll be beautifully sunny, and you talk to people in town. Oh, it's downpouring in town. Pardon me. But yeah, lots of weird, good memories of places out there, and it's just a nice little rambling story. And hey, if you made it this far, just always remember, if my cadence is a little too laid back, just turn up the video speed. So anyways, Freedom Phil, take it easy. Y'all have a good one.